That question. Before that, absolutely shameful appearance of Candace Owens on Tucker Carlson talking about Nick Fuentes. It's like they can't help but bring it down to some high school human-based, oh, he's like this and he's like that, and oh, he's deranged, and oh, maybe he's lonely, maybe he's gay. It's like, why don't you just engage with his points? This guy, all that Nick Fuentes demands is that you engage with his points. And you're doing exactly the opposite. You look like the psyops to me. Like they're trying to frame Nick Fuentes as a psyop type of campaign to discredit non-crazy white people. First, Nick Fuentes has been in the business for less long than Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson has been in the business of media way before Nick. And yet Tucker Carlson's current content is inspired and aligned with Nick's position in a way that is hard to measure. Like, if you compare the Tucker Carlson of 20 years ago and the Tucker Carlson of today, what's the difference? I would argue that the difference is plus Nick Fuentes. That's the equation of the modern Tucker Carlson. Why is Tucker Carlson having success talking to people like Martyr Maid, approaching the Israeli question with gloves? Why is he having success publicizing alternative versions of history? Why is he having success challenging Ted Cruz on things relating to the Jewish question in Israel? And all of it is attributable to Nick Fuentes and to people like me. We changed the zeitgeist in a way that Tucker Carlson is today talking about things that he would have never talked about at the beginning of his media career. And this acknowledgement, they can't even do it. So what do they do instead? They continue the cancellation of Nick Fuentes instead of saying, hey, you know what? Much of our current work is inspired from this guy. Whether it's inspired directly because Tucker watches Nick Fuentes or whether it's through the sidelines of secondary causality, maybe Nick changes the world comes to Tucker, now the world has different expectations, now they demand Israeli coverage of the Israeli question in a fair way. Whether it's through direct causality or indirect causality, it's unquestionable that Nick Fuentes, as a younger and rising star of the media world, has caused what Tucker Carlson is today. No question. So to see them talk with such dirtiness and such social concerns around Nick, treating him like a psychiatric patient rather than treating him as a visionary who has inspired them, is absolutely disgusting.
Who is this kid exactly?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just an accident that the guy exclusively goes after people who are in the same, roughly the same. And then he gets up there and he's like, making Holocaust jokes. And it's like, is it possible that this is...
So Nick Fuentes' last Holocaust joke was like 5 years ago with Milo, with Milo pushing him to do it. Literally. I haven't heard a Holocaust joke from Nick in a while. I need my fix. The last joke of Nick Fuentes on the Holocaust was Milo brings a plate of cookies to him and he says, hey, how many cookies are there on this plate? And Nick answers, I know the answer you want me to give, 6 million. It's a nice joke. It's a hilarious joke. So to build a theory of Nick Fuentes based on an event that was caused by a Jew in the first place, that the Jew was demanding this joke from him, is absolutely out of context, and it's poor method journalistically. Now he's about to to lay down a theory of Nick Fuentes based on the fact that he has this Holocaust joke.
Like David Duke. David Duke, every time I had a new show, David Duke would endorse my show. I don't know. Who the hell is David Duke? Well, David Duke is obviously part of a campaign to discredit people on the right.
No, not so obviously. Because you can read everything that David Duke has ever done as this guy has understood that there was illegitimate Jewish power in America that was working in the back of the scene, that was controlling too much for what they deserve, that was negatively affecting American politics. And you can understand everything that David Duke has ever done through this lens. You don't have an argument against this. You don't have evidence that David Duke is secretly planning something else, something nefarious for the American people. There is nothing that indicates this. First, start by taking people from a good faith perspective and ask yourself, do I have anything against this? Do I have anything disproving the good faith of David Duke? You don't. So that's why you're making these attacks, baseless accusations here on a very popular show.
Obviously.
No, not obviously.
And I think it's very obvious that Nick Fuentes is exactly the same.
Well, the harder you have to use the word obvious, the less obvious it seems to me. What is the evidence that Nick Fuentes is intended as a campaign to discredit the right? And who is discrediting Nick Fuentes? It's a bunch of leftists. It's the ADL. It's the SPLC. It's exactly everyone who handles the dirty work of cancel culture for the Jewish left and for the Jewish center to an extent. And because of people like you, this cancel culture finds a home in the center right, and that's very sad. Because you could say there's something wrong about everything that's being done to Nick Fuentes and to the likes of him. But you don't, because ultimately you are within the group of interest that is encompassed by SPLC, ADL. You are siding with them on this question, this critical question of, are we going to take Nick's argument for what they are, or are we going to treat him like a psychiatric patient?
Doesn't mean everything he says is false. It doesn't mean he's not talented. He's enormously talented. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. I'm not attacking him personally, but he is cool.
You are attacking him personally because you are implying a nefarious intent that is not in evidence. If you say, oh, well, I think he's part of a campaign to discredit us, well, what kind of assumptions do you have to make to get there? You have to make the assumption that he's getting somehow paid, that maybe indirectly, or maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he's a useful idiot being hired by some agents that push him in that direction. You have to make the assumption of guilt by association, because you have to make the assumption that, oh, well, whatever he says will discredit my IDs because we have similar IDs. So you have to side with the left on guilt by association. You have to side with the aspect of cancel culture that absolutely relies on guilt by association to work at all. If we had intellectuals with balls in our world that would go out there and say, I will never side with guilt by association of any kind. If we had if the world had rejected Sam Harris when he was counting the levels of separation between him and David Duke, and if people had laughed their ass off at the ridicule of the fallacy of guilt by association, we wouldn't be in the current situation. We wouldn't be with a Nick Fuentes isolated, whose IDs are not getting talked about because you spend so much time around his intention. And yes, attribution of nefarious intention without evidence is a ad hominem. It is an attack of his character.
Clearly part of a campaign to discredit non-crazy right voices.
So for this, you would have to prove first that Nick is crazy. or that he's acting out, he's playing a crazy character. I have no evidence that Nick is crazy. He's been extremely rational, being provoked and poked from all sides at all time, and being discredited, and people have attempted so hard to discredit him. He has continuously across the years pushed talking points that are rational, that are sensical, and that are intelligent. So where does the crazy come from? Not the fact that he has made one Holocaust jokes 5 years ago. Is that crazy? Is it crazy to find humor where you can't see it, Tucker Carlson? Is it okay in a liberal society that there are different types of minds that are triggered in their laughter through different mechanisms, and that some people, we are more edgy, we need a little more of that Nazi juice to our joke to find it really funny? That's not being crazy.
That's obvious to me. I've been around a long time. I know it when I see it.
Yeah, and I will say I don't understand it. We were very kind to him. Like, I truly, like, we almost said, like, we felt maybe he was a bit lonely. We should invite him back for dinner.
See, this is so disgusting. We felt he was maybe a little lonely, so we invited him back for dinner. We were so when she did our interview, instead of having the grace to give an interview to Nick about his ideas and combat his arguments, which is what he's been demanding for a decade now. Instead of doing that, well, we thought of inviting him back for dinner. Maybe he's a little lonely. So instead of treating him by the quality of his argument and engaging with him philosophically, you make this extremely poor interview in which you bring back talking points about race that were debunked years ago. And on top of it, you diminish him by treating him like he's a psychologically needing child who perhaps is too isolated, so let's give him a special meal. Let's give him the Big Mac to buy him out. A little bit like those police interview where, okay, we're gonna give him a Big Mac and he's going to acknowledge his involvement in the murder.
I mean, that's how good of an experience I had.
Clearly it's
and then it was a 180. So it's either A, it's being driven from like a little boy insecurity, and he just was so worried.
Again, intentional attribution. Nick didn't get a quality engagement with his points on your show, Candace, because you came back with already debunked points about race. You failed at engaging above this in any way about the Israeli question, about the Frankists. You basically attacked him personally and brought everything down to the personal view of race of you and him rather than the argument. And so as such, he was legitimately disappointed by the treatment. There's no amount of dinner you can pay the guy that will fix that. And so he had to come out publicly. Once this interview was public, unfortunately, you made yourself an enemy of epistemology, of proper epistemology, by making these discredited talking points and by not making Nick shine as much as he could have if you had concentrated on his points about Israel, Iran, the Jews, etc. You didn't cover you didn't live up to your responsibility as an interviewer. And your responsibility is, if you have a good product in front of you, you have to make it shine. That's your responsibility as an interviewer. And you brought it all down to female matters of, oh, well, do you think like that? Oh, well, I don't think like that. Well, I think that you think that.
He just went on the attack because he doesn't know how to have normal relations after being.
It's not about relations. See, these people are fucking. They're pissing me off. It's not about a relationship. You're not in a relationship with Nick Fuentes. It's about what you drop on the public space. It's about what he has to say and answer when you drop it. It's about the lack of quality of it. And so he has to come out and you know, to a disappointed crowd of his, he has to explain, no, look, she is a stupid bitch. It's not even a personal attack in this case to say she is a stupid bitch. It's just an explanation of why didn't you get a good interview that's worth anything with Nick Fuentes? And why is it that an average interviewer out there, like with these small YouTube channels, can do better than Candace Owens did with Nick Fuentes? It's not a relationship.
And everywhere.
Well, I think there's the kind of
that could be one element.
the angry gay kid thing going on. Yeah.
And now Nick, he's the angry gay kid. That's what's going on. He's just an angry gay kid. He suffers from being gay. And he's angry and alone, and he needs to be paid dinner. Maybe if we gave him a second dinner, he would be kinder. It's like they don't understand anything. They don't understand that all that Nick would want is for his crowd to be satisfied that his points have been made. Not in a personal way, not in a she says, I think that way, but to be actually engaged with. Do you think that there is a Jewish mafia that controls media too much, and that controls politics too much, and that controls intelligence too much in America, and that controls academia too much? Do you think that? If you could just engage on this question, this question isn't featured in this interview. How can you have Nick Fuentes for an hour in front of you and you can't talk about this? And you don't go like, hey, I disagree with you or I agree with you on this? How can that happen? Well, it happens because Candace Owens has a female relationship with the world. She talks about Nick Fuentes and she dares say the word relationship. Are you fucking kidding me? Relationship? There's no relationship. We are public persons. We can be in the same room at some point together or be in the same live stream, and that's it. That's the extent of our relationship. There's no kindness to be had. It's not about personal feelings. Nothing is personal, literally, in this business. Lana Loyalist says, crazy how you defend Nick JF. The guy is such an obvious self-interested charlatan. He's not about anything but his own self-interest. He's been counting the left for over 2 years now. How do you not see this? Courting the left for over 2 years now. How do you not see this? Well, none of your arguments matter. I'm self-interested too. What are you gonna do about it? The entire world is self-interested, my friend. Lana Loyalist is a female stuck into a male body. This is one of the rare cases of a trans that hasn't transed. So you understand the world from, oh, well, he has self-interest, he's a charlatan. Well, I understand the world from this perspective. Everything has to be self-interested. And if it's not, it's eliminated by evolution. So you might, if you want something in the world, you better make sure that it's in the interest of someone. Because anything you want in the world will have to be carried by self-interest. If you want companies, they're going to have to pay their employees. And the employees are going to interact with this company by being self-interested, by making money so they can make babies or they can survive. If you want public speakers, you're going to have to find a way where public speaking is in the interest of someone. It can be hard, but it has to be attractive in some way. You will never get anything in society without self-interest. So to necessarily say someone is a charlatan because they are self-interested, absolutely false. absolutely incorrect analysis. In fact, someone must have self-interest for things to continue and things to matter. Whether it's Walmart, everything, doctors, public speakers, anything you like in the world is grounded in self-interest. It's the only mechanism that makes the human species move forward. Secondly, to use the word charlatan then, without the fact that self-interest can justify it, you would have to prove to me that Nick Fuentes is misguiding his audience significantly, or saying false things, or selling false IDs. None of this has been made. None of this case has been made by you. Nick Fuentes is pushing a view of politics. He's doing so in a very high resolution, high knowledge, high study way that very few people actually can meet. Very few people can equate Nick Fuentes in his preparation. So, and he's bringing something. He has chosen a subject, which is Jewish control of America, that is extremely relevant, and where he's one of the only ones doing it. So that's not a charlatan. That's someone contributing to a public point that you may or may not like. It may be in your or not in your interest, but it's still a very high quality work that's being made. And as long as there are people paying for it, then it's because they think that it's better to have this voice than not have it. So Nick Fuentes is legitimate independently of what you think of it. Lana Loyalist says, the problem with that argument is that he's purporting to be about some kind of broader movement, which is an obvious lie. You should obviously have a degree of self-interest, but that's not the point, and you're strawmanning. I'm not strawmanning. I have made the case that self-interest does not justify your charlatan label, and that you have nothing else to justify that label. Now, concerning the purporting of a movement, well, Nick Fuentes has been trying activism at various times. I don't blame him. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails, but that is the inherent risk in doing something that's daring. You know, if you dare something that's unique and unsure, of course, there's going to be a chance for failure. As long as there are people willing to fund those failures and pardon him for those failures. Like the Groypers War #2 was kind of weak. There wasn't much to it. That doesn't matter. They're still throwing their money at something more useful than McDonald's. They're still throwing their money at something more useful than say, university research in our world. So the level of waste in the failure must take into consideration the fact that these people maybe don't care about the fact that sometimes it fails. It's unquestionable that sometimes it succeeds also. It's unquestionable that Nick Fuentes has had an impact on modern American thinking in a way that no one, literally no one of his generation is comparable. Name me one. Name me one that has changed Tucker Carlson as much as Nick Fuentes did. I don't know of a single person who has had impact on Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, in the way Nick Fuentes did. So it's like, he has cultural causality, no doubt. Now you can discuss about the chains of causality and whether they're complex or direct or indirect. But 10 years ago, I find myself in a world that's not willing to question Jewish power. Today, it's so much at the center of the public discussion that it's on Tucker Carlson's, literally. And they can't help but talk about it because they know it's the thing. They know it's the schism in the Republican Party. Now, your other argument is, well, Nick Fuentes is he is a charlatan because he is flirting with the left. That is not what a charlatan does. Nick Fuentes' priors about the world are very clear. Nick Fuentes tells us he's kind of a social conservative, but not an extreme right-winger in the libertarian economic sense. In fact, to the contrary, arguably from my perspective, Nick Fuentes is a statist, and he is a leftist from my perspective, on the economic axis. Now, this is all disclosed, this is all known. Nick Fuentes has never sworn an oath of loyalty to the Republican Party. So Nick Fuentes is saying he has certain ideas and he's willing to play the Republican Party and the Democrat Party to advance these ideas. And he's willing to say, I'm not voting for Trump today. I'm not voting for Kamala Harris either, but I'm not voting for Trump. And maybe there's a future in which Nick votes for the Democrat candidate. But that has always been a disclosed aspect of Nick's personality. He's willing to seek vengeance, and he understands the political game as if you don't punish the side that you would have liked, but that is constantly demeaning you and rejecting you, then you have to side with the other side. And that's a very good argument. It's a very good argument that, in fact, by not voting Democrat, he has diluted his vote. He has diluted his resistance to the Republican Party. Arguably the rational thing to do. If you're dissatisfied with how the Republican Party handles the Israeli question, the way to punish them for real is to not only not vote, it's to vote for the Democrat, even if you disagree with what the Democrats push for. So, no, I reject the entirety of the attack on Nick, and I conclude that Nick is still being cancelled. Yesterday, I talked of 3 mechanisms of cancellation. One is to positively join the voices of cancellation, to lie and write hit pieces about someone. The second degree is to ignore someone in line with their already cancelled state. The third degree is to engage with the person, but to boil it down to psychiatric and psychopathic accusations, to be treating the person as less than humans and his arguments as less than valuable because they come from his mouth. And Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are in the third category. They are part of cancel culture. Because if you've been cancelled by hit pieces and accusations, but then as a result of these hit pieces, people don't engage with your philosophical points, then you might as well be fully cancelled. They might as well not engage. Because then they engage with, oh, the human, and oh, look at the human. Look at the monster here. And then your contribution to culture is zero. Because they're still obfuscating it, they're still gatekeeping it. Lana Loyalist says he didn't say he wouldn't vote for Kamala. He was clearly shilling her and counter-signaling Trump, despite the Dems having the same position on Jews and Israel. He's not trustworthy, simple as. Well, then don't trust him. You are a meaningless person. A fan of literally Lana Del Rey. Okay? You are meaningless in the universe. You do not trust Nick Fuentes? Okay. I don't trust you. Do you trust me? Who cares who you trust? None of that matters. Mr. Wisco says he was not shilling for her at all. You have fallen for lies. Yeah, and he's been very clear that he wasn't voting for Kamala. He has stated to his base very often that he wasn't voting for Kamala. Now, even if he had said he voted for Kamala, that wouldn't matter. Lana Loyalist says we're all meaningless by that standard. Yeah, but you're especially meaningless. Like, whether you trust Nick Fuentes is especially meaningless. Especially meaningless. Doesn't matter. Go on with life. I like Nick Fuentes. I like his contributions to culture. And as long as there are people willing to trust him with their money, what you feel about it doesn't matter.